class. Today we're going to be looking at Chapter 21. We'll be working with sales mix considerations. So bear with me just a minute. Okay, so you should be able to see problem 21-5B now. And what we're going to talk about that's new today is what we call sales mix considerations. And we're going to review again some break-even analysis, or we're going to talk about break-even sales. And basically what we're talking about when we talk about a sales mix is that sometimes we can have companies that are selling more than one type of product. And if they do, they might sell these products at different selling prices. These products might have different variable costs associated with them, and therefore it will affect the contribution margin of the products. And the contribution margin of the products is basically how much each product is going to contribute to the bottom line of the company. And so when we have a sales mix consideration, what we need to do, first of all, is determine what the sales mix percentage is. In this case, they've given you the sales mix percentage. And the sales mix percentage is a percentage of the total sales that are sold. So in this case, 30% of the 12-inch pizzas are going to make up the total units sold. So 30% of the total units sold are from 12-inch pizzas. The remaining 70% of the products sold will be sold to the 16-inch pizzas, since there's only two products in this company. So 70% of the total sales belong to the 16-inch pizzas. So when we're trying to determine break even, you'll remember that break even was where our revenues and our expenses are exactly the same. And so management might want to look at break even sales in units or dollars to see how much they have to sell in order to, like it says, break even, not have a profit, not have a loss, but just to break even. So when we have two or more products that we're selling, then we have to take into consideration the sales mix percentages. And when we are calculating break-even sales on multiple products, then what we're going to do is we're going to have to look at a different way of viewing contribution margins and determining the sales mix for contribution margins. So in other words, there's some steps that we're going to have to perform in order to calculate break-even analysis. The first step is to determine the contribution margin per unit per product. And so in this case, we're selling 12-inch pizzas, that's one of our products, and 16-inch pizzas. And both of those have different selling prices. The selling prices were given in the information above, and they also gave you the variable cost associated with each one of the products. Those two were given above. So what you have to do is find the contribution margin per unit. And you'll remember the selling price per unit minus the variable cost per unit will give you the contribution margin per unit. So for the 12-inch pizzas, the selling price was $12 per unit. The variable costs were $3 per unit. So the difference between these is the contribution margin per unit of $9. So the sales of one pizza would contribute $9 toward the total overall break even, this is the amount that would contribute to the income from operations for the company. For your 16-inch pizzas, we have selling price of $15, which was given, minus the variable cost per unit for the 16-inch pizza which is $4 per unit. And then the difference between those is the contribution margin per unit. Contribution margins, the amount that we have left to cover our fixed cost. The second step in calculating the break-even analysis is to multiply the contribution margin per unit by the sales mix percentage. And so we're going to take our contribution margin that we found for our 12-inch pizzas, which was $9. We're going to multiply it by the sales mix percentage that was given to us in this problem, which is 30%. If you multiply that by the $9, that tells you that for this company's overall 12-inch pizzas will contribute 2.7 or $2.70 toward the operations, the income from operations of the company. You do this for each product. So the product 16-inch pizzas had a selling price, has a contribution margin of $11. We just brought that down there. And then we're going to multiply it by the sales mix percentage, which was 70%. That was given in the top part of our information. Well, we also wrote it down here, 70% of the total pizzas sold is for 16-inch pizzas. When you multiply 70% times 11, that will give you $7.70. This is the sales mix contribution margin that would be attributed to the 16-inch pizza. So $7.70 is the sales mix contribution margin that would be attributed to the 16-inch pizzas, and $2.70 is the sales mix contribution margin that would contribute to the company income for the 12-inch pizzas. The next step is to combine both of these sales mix contribution margins together. So you can see I just brought this down here, and I brought this down here, and I added them together. What that will do is it'll give us a total product contribution margin for the company, the entire company, not just broken down by product, but this is the contribution margin for the company. And we're going to use that contribution margin for the company, the overall product contribution margin of $10.40 in the formula for break even, which the break even sales in units is equal to your fixed cost divided by your contribution margin. So I took my fixed cost, which was given in the top part of the information. Our fixed cost was $46,800. I'm going to divide that contribution, I'm going to divide those fixed costs by the contribution margin that we found for the overall company, which is $10.40. So if you divide the fixed cost by the $10.40, it will give you 4,500 units. That's the amount of sales that this company needs to break even. It's 4,500 total pizzas that are sold in order for this company to break even. Now, if you wanted to know how much you needed to sell of each pizza, we would take this a step further and multiply the break-even sales for the company by the sales mix percentage. And what that will do is that will tell you exactly how many 12-inch pizzas we need to sell and exactly how many 16-inch pizzas we need to sell in order to break even. So I took my 4,500 units and I multiplied it by my sales mix percentage for pizzas, the 12-inch pizza, which was 30. And that told me that I have to sell 1,350 of my 12-inch pizzas, and I have to sell 31 50 of my 16-inch pizzas in order for this company to break even. And so if you had an additional product, we would just keep doing the calculations for this. The main thing that you need to remember is you got to find a contribution margin per unit for each product, multiply that contribution margin by the percentages of the sales mix. In this case, since we had two products, 30% was for the 12-inch pizzas, so the remaining 70% is for the 16-inch pizza. If we had more than two products, all of the percentages have to equal to 100%. And the main thing is you remember that you have to add together all of your sales mix contribution amounts for each product to find a total overall company contribution margin. And that contribution margin is divided into the fixed cost for the company, and that will tell them how many units that they need to sell for this company to break even. But since they had different selling prices associated with the 12-inch pizza and the 16-inch pizza, then we need to take that a step further to determine the break-even number of sales that we would have to have for each product. The total company's break-even times the sales mix percentage will give you the break-even sales for each one of the products. In the last part of this problem, they had a what-if analysis. Assume that the sales mix was 50% for 12-inch pizzas and 50% for 16-inch pizzas. So they sold exactly half of the break-even for that company. But since there was a sales mix percentage of 50%, then we really need to start the steps again. The first step is the same one that we did before, find the contribution margin per unit. Then we take that contribution margin per unit and we multiply it by the sales mix percentage, which in this case was 50%. That gave them 4.5 for the 12-inch pizzas and 5.5 or $4.50 if you want to look at it like that, and $5.50. These two have to be combined. Total amount is $10 as the overall amount of the contribution margin. This overall amount would be divided into the fixed cost for the company. The fixed costs were the same as what they gave you earlier, divided by the contribution margin, and that will give you a break even for the total company of 4,680 units that they need to sell. If you break it down by pizzas, then we would take that 4,680, since the sales mix percentage was 50% for both of these products, you multiply that by 50%. And so basically 12-inch pizzas had to sell half of this amount in order to break even. And they also had to sell half of for the 16-inch pizzas. So they had to sell both the 12-inch pizzas and 16-inch pizzas for the break-even sales of $23.40 each. And that's all I want to talk to you about today. I'll see you again for another video. So we'll stop sharing this with you. Bye-bye.